You know who you are?
Steven is my name.
Even Steven.
Will you say something, Steven?
Stephen Orhouse Media.
The following episode will contain references to stories and characters that may cause sudden and uncontrollable feelings of nostalgic joy and wonder. Listener discretion is advised.
Here it is, folks. Read the book, then take a look. It's time for Event or Else, the podcast where I go through most every major Marvel and DC event, one issue at a time, one episode at a time, because, well, maybe it was the way I was raised. I'm your host. My name is Steven, and I'm here to tell you what you can expect from Season 2. It's pretty simple, folks. A new season means a new event. And with Season 2, I'm crossing the street. I'm saying goodbye to Marvel and hello to DC and diving head first into that most epic of events, Crisis on Infinite Earths. This was a 12-issue limited series written by Marv Wolfman and penciled by George Perez, and it ran from April of 1985 to March of 1986. That means, of course, that as the Secret Wars were wrapping up, the Crisis was just beginning. Now, because of this, it's hard not to compare the two events. And while Marvel Superhero Secret Wars was, in its initial execution, a story created to sell more toys, Crisis on Infinite Earths had a much loftier purpose in mind. Crisis was an attempt to take all them DC titles and make them a bit more reader-friendly and less confusing. How was one event going to do that? Well, by doing away with that one thing they had identified as being the single greatest reason behind all the scratching of the heads, and that was the multiverse, which is funny because the multiverse was a concept they had created to try and lessen confusion by explaining why there were multiple versions of certain characters going all the way back to the Golden Age, such as the Flash and Green Lantern. All right, let me explain, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. Back in the late 30s, throughout the 40s, and even into the 50s, we had the Golden Age of comics. Among the titles published by DC during this era were books featuring characters such as Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash, and Green Lantern. But here's the thing. The Flash and the Green Lantern of the Golden Age aren't the same characters we know today. I mean, pretty much none of them are, but the Flash and the Green Lantern are two examples of some of the bigger changes made to the characters. The Flash of the Golden Age was a guy named Jay Garrick, who had gained super speed by inhaling the vapors of hard water. And the Green Lantern, he was Alan Scott, a railroad engineer who finds a lantern fashioned from a meteor that talks to him and teaches him how to create a ring from the lantern's metal that can do all kinds of amazing stuff. But then, at some point in the late 40s and early 50s, superhero comics began to get less popular as readers were passing them up for westerns, crime, and horror comics. As a result, comics like The Flash and Green Lantern ended, while Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman continued on. Then came the Silver Age. In the back half of the 1950s, DC Comics brought back the superhero in a big way, publishing titles like The Flash and the Green Lantern once again. It's just that these weren't the same characters they had been publishing before. The Flash was now Barry Allen, a forensic chemist who is drenched by chemicals after the cabinet that they were in was struck by lightning. And this is what gave him his super speed. And the Green Lantern, this time, he's test pilot Hal Jordan, who's given a ring from a dying alien, making Hal a member of a galactic police force known as the Green Lantern Corps. His ring can project anything his mind can create and can be as solid and as strong as the strength of his will. With the dawn of the Silver Age, characters like Jay Garrick and Alan Scott never existed. Or did they? Eventually, in the Flash comics, we learn of the existence of an alternate Earth where our Golden Age heroes were alive and well. They called this Earth, Earth 2, while the current Silver Age books took place in Earth 1. Barry Allen Flash from Earth 1 and Jay Garrick Flash from Earth 2 would cross the interdimensional threshold every now and again, and they would team up and have adventures and all that fun stuff. The same thing would eventually happen with the Justice League, the superhero team from Earth 1, and the Justice Society, the superhero team from Earth 2. They would also team up now and again. But wait, hold on. If the Golden Age heroes existed on a different Earth, what did that mean for Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman? Their Silver Age versions are just the Golden Age versions that continued on, right? Not really. Now we had Earth 1 and Earth 2 versions of these characters as well. Furthermore, to complicate matters, DC began publishing books that existed on Earth 2. And while diehard fans had no trouble with the concept of varying versions of the characters they loved, new readers found the whole thing pretty darn confusing. I mean, in the end, before the crisis, there was Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth A, Earth B, Earth X, and many more. It was really confusing. Hence came the crisis, which was supposed to clean up this entire mess by destroying the universe so that they could start over with a clean slate. That was the plan anyway. And it worked for just a bit, but comics being comics, nothing lasts forever. But that's not why we're here. Like season 1, I will be looking into each issue of Crisis on Infinite Earths, 1 issue per episode, and each episode will contain 3 segments. Segment 1 will be where I tell you what happened in the issue. Segment 2 will be the 3 things to dwell on. These are 3 moments in the book that I feel need to be given just a bit more thought and scrutiny. And then segment 3 will be the wrap up, where I tell you what I thought of the issue. And that's what you can expect, folks. If you've watched all of season 1, there should really be no surprises. And it all starts next week. Event or Else is, as always, primarily a video show, which you can find at youtube.eventorelse.com. But for those who prefer the audio without the video, there's an audio podcast as well, which can be found wherever you get podcasts. So run a pot of coffee, put the kettle on, take a moment to use the restroom, and don't forget to wash your hands, because the crisis is coming. See you next week.
I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Event or Else. Questions and comments can be directed to eventorelse@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, you can help to boost our presence online by leaving a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. I also invite you to join our subscription program, Stephen or Else Beyond. And in return, you'll get episodes of Event or Else along with every other podcast under the Stephen or Else umbrella, early and ad-free. Check out the link in the show notes or just go to eventorelse.com to join today. Event or Else is a presentation of Stephen or Else Media. For more nerdy content just like this, check out stephenorelse.com.
I just don't think I can move through life knowing that a guy named Steven did this to me.
How could you let this happen, Steven?
Your podcast sucks.
What's the next event?